Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Wednesday, 4 March. I am your host Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Iran striking back against the Gulf countries, Khamenei's son has been elected as the new supreme leader, and the CIA looks to arm Kurdish groups. So firstly, Iran continues to strike across the Gulf region overnight from Tuesday to Wednesday. In Kuwait, an 11-year-old girl was killed by falling debris, and attempts by emergency services to revive her were unsuccessful, the Kuwaiti Health Ministry said in a statement on Wednesday morning. The ministry did not provide any details about the type of debris that struck the girl. Kuwait's air defense system shot down a number of Iranian drones and missiles, with reports of debris from the enemy targets causing damage and injuries. Additionally, Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Defense said that 2 cruise missiles were intercepted on Wednesday over an area south of the capital, Riyadh. So what? It seems likely that Iran striking at these GCC countries with such ferocity was unexpected by the countries themselves, and they were unprepared for such eventualities. Regardless of what Iran has done in the past and said in the past, I don't think they thought Iran would step over this line and directly target them rather than just US military bases or Western military forces in their countries. So I think this has come as a pretty big shock to them, and they seem furious, to say the least. There's been reports that Qatar shot down 2 Iranian fighter jets that were flying towards their airspace, and other similar stories from around the Gulf. In my opinion, it further isolates Iran. Even if the regime survives, the GCC countries won't forget this, and neither will Iran, really. So it's going to have changed the status quo for the future. And the fallout of that will be interesting because countries like Qatar and Oman, who have been somewhat friendly to them in the past, will likely not be anymore. And further isolation could lead to further distrust and further extremism within the country, possibly pushing them towards wanting a nuclear weapon even more. Additionally, it'll possibly lead to GCC countries expanding their military capabilities. Great news for defense companies, selling missile defense systems and weapons, but not great for peace and security. Well, good for security, but not great for peace within the region. Also, who is going to fight in these armies is another thing. The GCC countries are not plentiful with citizens of their own countries. Often they rely on foreign nationals who work in their countries for certain jobs, and fighting in their military probably not a highly sought after job if you can just go work in the oil and gas industry and make boatloads of money. So who's going to fight in these armies is another question that we don't really have an answer to. Next, Iran's Assembly of Experts has reported they have chosen Mujbar, I don't know how to say his first name, the son of Khamenei, also known as Khamenei, as the Ayatollah who was killed in an Israeli airstrike amid escalating regional conflict. There's also unconfirmed reports that this election was forced through by the IRGC, and that it was kind of done under duress, wanting them to appoint him specifically due to his kind of just the way he is and his support from the IRGC. It's also possible he'll be eliminated in the near term. Israel has made it clear that any successor to Khamenei would be a target for elimination, and I have no doubt that they're currently using all intelligence resources to try and identify his location so they can remove him from the battle space. But yeah, if he survives, he could be more hardline than his father. He's younger, he's more extreme in his views, from what I understand. And I'm sure this experience will not have made him more moderate. He will remember that, the West killed his father, etc. And it's likely that if he does survive this conflict, and if the Iranian regime does survive this conflict, it'll come out the other side harder and more extreme than it went into it. And as I said just before, it's likely they'll see the gaining of a nuclear weapon as the only way to ensure their own survival. And lastly, the CIA is working to arm Kurdish forces with an aim of fomenting a popular uprising in Iran, multiple people familiar with the plan told CNN. The Trump administration has been in active discussions with Iranian opposition groups and the Kurdish leaders in Iraq by providing them with military support, sources said. Iranian Kurdish armed groups have thousands of forces operating along the Iraq-Iran border, primarily in Iraq's Kurdistan region, with several other groups having released public statements since the beginning of the war, hinting at imminent action and urging Iranian military forces to defect. So what? This just seems like an age-old plan that has never gone bad for the US in the past, worked really well in Afghanistan. It kind of worked well in Syria. They did support Kurdish forces, but, they were directly there holding their hand through the conflict, unlike in Afghanistan where they were just left to their own devices once being trained and given weaponry, and eventually then turned against them. So, yeah, I think this is kind of the way the US is looking at having some kind of force that can conduct ground operations without needing to deploy US forces. As many people have pointed out, that no regime has been toppled by airstrikes alone. So if they do want to change the regime, they do need some kind of ground force to do the actual fighting and push into the country and topple the regime. But I think this is unlikely to work. The Kurdish people within Iran are a minority, and the security forces of Iran are still seem to be quite large and strong. They have lots of manpower. They have lots of weaponry. They're well ingrained into the community, the cities. They've prepared for this. They have strong security infrastructure. So I don't think this is going to work well. But I could be wrong. We've been wrong in the past. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, seems like a bit of a desperate attempt at regime change. Even though, Trump said yesterday that he didn't want regime change. But hey, who's counting, right? Anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.